Chapter 320. Let me tell you some bad news. Lin Yi wasn't expecting everyone to be looking at him with such nervous gazes. Did he scare them with his tone? Mr. Lu, I said I could cure Elder Lu's illness in 10 years, so it's 10 years. That bone and marrow cleansing thing is a complimentary gift. Lin Yi paused. But the bad news is that you'll need to prepare the money 10 years from now. You'll still need to prepare it. Elder Lu can live for more than 10 years after the bone and marrow cleansing. Ah. Lu Tianyi blinked, surprised and overjoyed at the same time. This wasn't bad news at all, it couldn't be any better. How could it be bad news? So what if he had to prepare money after 10 years? As long as his father lived, House Lu would continue to prosper. Lu Tianyi was so moved that he couldn't speak. Miracle Dr. Lin. You're the savior of House Lu. Lin Yi waved his hand. Alright, I'm tired, I need to rest. Yes. Miracle Dr. Lin needs to rest, I'll take my father to the bath first. Lu Tianyi didn't want to disturb Lin Yi any longer. He'd wanted to say some more words of gratitude but held them back. Xinhu couldn't help but be overjoyed at Lin Yi's words. Not only would he live for another 10 years, he'd be able to live a few more years on top of that. This was really good news. Tianyi, you have to prepare a big gift for young Miracle Dr. Lin after this is over. Consultation fee is consultation fee. Thank you gift is thank you gift. You can't mix the two together. Xinhu knew how important a miracle doctor was to the family, and naturally he wouldn't let go of any chance to befriend Lin Yi. Xinhu wouldn't look down on Lin Yi anymore. Age didn't determine one's ambitions. Lin Yi might be young but he was capable. Yes, Dad. I understand. Lu Tianyi quickly nodded and helped his father up. No, I feel like I'm 10 years younger. It's like I've returned to the time when I was in my 70s. My body is very good and I have strength. Xinhu waved his hand and stood up, pacing a few steps around the room. Not bad at all. Lu Tianyi was even more surprised at this moment. Although he did not doubt the authenticity of Lin Yi's words, it was not as shocking as seeing it with his own eyes. His father, who used to need the help of others to walk and couldn't walk fast, was now walking as if he was flying. Was this still an old man in his 90s? At this moment, Lu Tianyi had also made up his mind to build a good relationship with Lin Yi at all costs. This was a rising star in the medical world after all. His family had to make the first move and wait for the news to spread. All the noble houses would flock to fawn over Lin Yi, and then the Lus would have nothing to do with it. Lu Tianyi, Xinhu and Xumin left the room and closed the door for Lin Yi. Lin Yi was a bit tired, but he silently practiced the first stage of the art of dragon mastery in his mind. The energy he had lost was replenished and he was back to his energetic self. You brat, how can you be so devious? You can't cure his illness and you're telling him to prepare the money 10 years later for treatment. And he's still grateful to you. Jiao Yazi's voice rang out. Then what should I say? That I didn't cure him? Lin Yi sweated. He really was a bit devious. But you're not devious enough. You're not as devious as my master uncle. If it were him, he would have asked for another bone and marrow cleansing fee. Jiao Yazi said. Lin Yi fainted. When Lin Yi came downstairs, Guan Exin had already placed the dishes on the table. Xinhu and Lu Tianyi hadn't left either. Xinhu had clearly just showered as his hair was still damp. However, he looked energetic as he chatted with Xuemin about something. Xinhu and Lu Tianyi stood up again when Lin Yi came downstairs. Miracle Dr. Lin, you've worked hard. It's nothing. Is it time to eat? Mr. Lu and Elder Lu, would you like to join us? Lin Yi looked at the food on the table. It was enough for a few people, so he invited them. Then I'll gladly accept your invitation. This old man will shamelessly come and freeload. Xinhu wanted the Lius to get closer to Lin Yi as well, so he immediately accepted Lin Yi's invitation. The Lius were now convinced that Lin Yi really was Xuemin's mentor. Although this was Xuemin's house, it wasn't appropriate for them to stay and eat with Lin Yi. Guan Exin brought out the dishes one by one, and then placed the bowls and chopsticks on the table like a little wife. Alright, let's eat together. You must be hungry, right? Let's skip the formalities and get straight to the point. Xuemin was worried that Lin Yi would be too tired, so he asked everyone to get straight to the point. All right. Lin Yi nodded, but noticed Guan Exin standing to the side. Guan Exin, you're here too? Guan Exin looked at Xuemin. In the past, when Xuemin's friends came over, Guan Exin wouldn't join in the fun. After all, she was a junior. Yesterday it was only Lin Yi and the two knew each other, so Xuemin wanted to introduce Lin Yi to her. That was why Guan Xan came. But today Jinhu and Lu Tianyi were here, so it wasn't appropriate for Guan Xan to just sit down. Xin Xan, let's eat together. You can sit next to Yi. Xuemin said with a smile. Okay. Guan Xan nodded, happy as she sat down next to Lin Yi. Lu Tianyi wanted to sit next to Lin Yi to get closer to him, but Guan Xan suddenly sat down. He was a little disappointed, but at the same time he started to pay more attention to Guan Xan. Guan Xan's shy and happy expression just now was reflected in Lu Tianyi's eyes. Lu Tianyi wasn't an idiot, he could tell Guan Xan's feelings for Lin Yi with just one look. No wonder Lin Yi was so close to House Guan, it was because of this. It seemed that even if he got to know a miracle doctor like Lin Yi, he couldn't cut off his connection with Xuemin. Lu Tianyi made up his mind. Guan Xan put 100% of her effort into cooking today's meal, and it was a world of difference compared to yesterday's. Lin Yi of course ate heartily. Guan Xan on the other hand ate very little, but she was even happier to see Lin Yi enjoying the food. Lin Yi didn't linger after the meal. He still had to prepare for his trip abroad, and it was about time for him to leave for the airport. His flight was at 4 in the afternoon and it was already 1. Lu Tianyi and Jinhu were a little disappointed to see Lin Yi leave in a hurry, and so was Guan Xan. Xuemin on the other hand didn't mind. He used to look forward to Lin Yi's visits, but now that he had a project with Lin Yi would definitely come more often. Chapter 321. Meeting Wang Xinyan again. Faubert's Bentley was already parked in front of the villa. Lin Yi parked the van in the garden and opened the door for Faubert. Faubert, wait for me. I need to get changed. Okay, just in time to prepare the things you need to bring. Uncle Fu nodded and said. Lin Yi was wearing a school uniform right now. He couldn't just leave the country like that because it would be too eye-catching. The Songshan First School's uniform wasn't very eye-catching in Songshan, but it wasn't available in other cities, let alone overseas. If Lin Yi were to appear in that uniform, he'd definitely be noticed by the local gangs. Lin Yi changed into the casual clothes he'd bought at the night market and put on a pair of sunglasses. He then took out the blade from his shoe and threw it into the drawer. Something like that wouldn't be able to get past airport security. He'd just buy another one and put it in his shoe when he got there. Lin Yi left his phone on the desk and came out without anything else. You're not bringing anything? Faubert looked at Lin Yi's outfit, a little surprised. What's there to bring? I'm just bringing someone back. Lin Yi shook his head. Faubert didn't say anything as he handed a credit card and plane ticket to Lin Yi. This credit card can be overdrawn up to $1,000,000. The password is the same as the one I gave you before. Lin Yi didn't decline and put the card and plane ticket into his pocket. Lin Yi wasn't a stranger to flying, but this was his first time using Lin Yi's identity. He'd had all sorts of random names when he was on missions before. Lin Yi packed lightly and got on the plane in no time at all. Faubert had bought a first-class ticket. With Peng Zhan's wealth, a first-class ticket wasn't much at all. Faubert had bought a transfer ticket that required a transfer at Yanjing. However, as soon as Lin Yi boarded the plane, he closed his eyes and prepared to sleep. Sir, can I go over? Lin Yi's seat was near the aisle. As soon as he got on the plane, he lowered his head as if he was asleep. However, in fact, Lin Yi didn't sleep. He just closed his eyes. When he heard someone talking, he guessed that it might be the passengers sitting inside, so he stood up. But when he saw the person, he was stunned. It's you? Xinyan looked at the man in the big sunglasses. He looked familiar, but she didn't know who he was. Lin Yi was stunned. He then remembered that he was still wearing sunglasses, so he reached out and took them off. What about this time? It's you. Xinyan looked at Lin Yi, a little surprised. What are you doing here? But then Xinyan realized that her question was a little stupid. They were on a plane and Lin Yi naturally had to take the plane to Yanjing. Otherwise he wouldn't be here. Why you're here is why I'm here. Lin Yi shrugged. Do you have luggage? I'll help you put it on. Yeah. Xinyan nodded after a moment of hesitation. She was dragging a suitcase and it would be a little troublesome for a girl to lift it up. She wanted to wait for the flight attendant to help, but Lin Yi did it for her. Xinyan didn't hesitate. Thank you. It's no trouble at all. Lin Yi opened the luggage rack with one hand and grabbed Xinyan's suitcase with the other, placing it firmly on top of it. Xinyan's mouth was agape. The suitcase wasn't heavy, but putting it on with one hand showed that Lin Yi had quite the strength. Xinyan sat down and so did Lin Yi. Thank you for last time. Xinyan had always wanted to say thank you to Lin Yi. If it weren't for Lin Yi, she would have gotten into a lot of trouble. It's nothing, Lin Yi shook his head. Plus, didn't you help me on the train last time? That time. Xinyan smiled at the memory of what happened on the train. You really scared me that time. I thought you were tricked. But who would have thought that those people were the ones who got the worst of it? You're going to Yanjing too? Yeah, it's just a transfer. Lin Yi nodded. I see. Xinyan was a little disappointed. She'd wanted to treat Lin Yi to a meal to express her gratitude, but Lin Yi had a transfer so he couldn't leave the airport. The airport was mostly full of fast food and it wasn't suitable for a formal treat. What about you? What are you going to Yanjing for? Lin Yi asked. I'm going to take care of some family matters. Xinyan's face darkened a little. Lin Yi saw that Xinyan didn't seem to want to talk about herself, so he didn't press the issue. The two fell into silence. It was obvious that Wang Xinyan was a girl who wasn't good at communicating with people. She was a bit of an introvert after all. She wouldn't have been listening to her MP3 player when they met on the train. It was also because Xinyan wasn't good with words that Wu Huiru was able to trick her in the business district of the city center. If it had been Yushu or Xinwen, that violent girl, Wu Huiru would have been the one running. Your phone number is. The two spoke at the same time. Xinyan couldn't help but smile at each other. Xinyan blushed a little. Give me your phone, I'll help you. I don't have it with me. I'll give you my number and you can text me. Lin Yi said. My number is 152x×1234. Okay. Xinyan nodded and took out a small phone. She keyed in Lin Yi's number and texted it over. You live in Yanjing? The journey was long and Xinyan didn't like to talk much. Lin Yi had to find a topic himself. It's my grandpa's house. Xinyan said, a little sad. My grandpa passed away. I'm going to the funeral. Ah? Lin Yi blinked, knowing that Xinyan had brought up something sad. My condolences. But why are you alone? My parents passed away before me. I'm still in school so I had to apply for leave. Xinyan explained. It's nothing. My grandpa and I aren't that close and we've only met a few times. It's just that I feel bad. My mom broke off with my family when she married my dad. My grandpa and my grandpa are enemies. Lin Yi was getting a bit of a headache from listening to this family's relationship was complicated enough. No wonder Xinyan didn't look too sad at all. Perhaps her mother hadn't gone back much after breaking up with her family, and her grandfather was her grandfather's enemy. Naturally, he wouldn't be too nice to someone with the surname Wang. Chapter 322. Incorrect information. Xinyan blinked. You're an orphan? You could say that, but I have an old man who loves me dearly. You could call him adoptive father or grandpa. Anyways, his age is a little awkward. Lin Yi scratched his head. I guess I'll just have to call him old man. Xinyan chuckled at Lin Yi's words. You don't have to comfort me, I'm fine. I'm just feeling a little uncomfortable. My grandpa just passed away and now my uncles are fighting over the inheritance. Even my grandpa's body was left in the hospital, and my parents were the ones who organized the funeral. Lin Yi was speechless. He didn't know what to say to Xinyan's uncles, letting a daughter they'd broken up with come back to take care of the funeral while they were busy fighting over the inheritance. But it's fine. Our family isn't after anything. My grandpa's family is richer and more powerful than my grandpa's, but my parents have built a place for themselves after all these years. Xinyan had kept these words bottled up in her heart for a long time, and she probably didn't have anyone she could talk to normally. She decided to talk to someone she could get along with. Lin Yi. It's just that. My uncle said that my mom's going back to fight over the inheritance. Lin Yi didn't know what to say as he listened to Xinyan's story. This was family business after all, and Lin Yi wasn't in a position to butt in. I'm just whining, just don't bother me. Xinyan shook her head with a bitter smile. It's fine, didn't I tell you? Every family has their own problems and things like this are hard to deal with. As long as you do your best, it'll be fine. Lin Yi said. Yeah, as long as you do your best, it'll be fine. Xinyan nodded. The two talked for a while and Xinyan seemed to be getting sleepy as well. She leaned back in her chair, falling asleep after a while. Lin Yi turned down the air conditioner for her before closing his eyes as well. The plane was already descending when Lin Yi woke up. Xinyan was listening to her MP3 player, a few bags of snacks and a glass of juice on the table. Xinyan took her headphones off when she saw that Lin Yi was awake. She handed Lin Yi a bag of snacks from the table. Here, they were distributed on the plane when you were asleep. I got one for you. You can eat it. I don't like these things very much. Lin Yi took a look at it and found it was mostly dehydrated vegetable slices. He didn't like it. Yeah, thanks. Xinyan seemed to like these snacks a lot, and she'd already finished her portion. It didn't take long for the plane to land at Yanjing Airport, and Xinyan went to the domestic arrival point while Lin Yi went to the international transfer lounge. The encounter with Wang Xinyan was just a small interlude, and Lin Yi was on a plane to Blue Town. There was no one he knew on the plane this time, and so Lin Yi closed his eyes and fell asleep. When he opened his eyes, he was already in a foreign land. This was a small town full of exotic atmosphere, but it was not Blue Town. Blue Town was a few kilometers away from here by car. Lin Yi flagged down a taxi after exiting the airport, telling the driver that he was going to Blue Town in English. English was the common language of the world, and it was effective in this exotic European town as well. There were many customers on the way from the airport to Blue Town, and the driver was used to it. Ever since the Blue Water took control of Blue Town, it had become a place of luxury and debauchery with casinos, red light districts, and drug dealing all over the place. There were a lot of customers visiting Blue Town every day, and the driver thought that Lin Yi was a tourist. You can have some fun there, young man, but don't get too addicted to it. Or else. Sigh. Thanks, I'm just going to take a look. Lin Yi thought that the driver was a good guy after all. The driver didn't try to convince him otherwise and started talking about the local culture in Blue Town instead. Lin Yi had a clear Asian face and he was obviously a tourist. Don't offend the people in blue baseball caps in Blue Town. They're members of the Blue Water gang, and they hang out in casinos and brothels. The Blue Water is the only gang in Blue Town and they're very powerful. You might not be able to come back if you piss them off. I've heard of that before. Lin Yi nodded. Right, sir, I'd like to ask, where's the Blue Water HQ? HQ? Why are you asking? The driver asked, suddenly alarmed. I'm staying somewhere far away from them. It sounds scary and I'm traveling alone. I want to avoid trouble. Lin Yi explained with a smile. Oh, I see. The driver let out a breath of relief. The Blue Water HQ is in an old castle on the west side of the town, but the core of the Blue Water isn't there. The castle is too eye-catching and there's only the Blue Water members there. I see. Lin Yi wondered. Could the information be wrong? According to the information Guanghua had given him, that Blue Castle was the Blue Water's headquarters. But Guanghua hadn't looked into it before, something that even a taxi driver knew? Yeah, one of my cousins is a member of the Blue Water, so he knows a bit more. Their HQ is in an auto repair shop in the North District, and only a few people know about it. But you're a tourist from another city, so it's fine to tell you. Try not to go to the North District. Alright, I won't go then. Lin Yi was moved. Just as he expected. The HQ of the Blue Water wasn't too big of a secret, but it was too far from Songshan, and Guanghua could only find some superficial information. Without actual investigation, there would be no specific search results on the internet. Lin Yi had the driver drop him off in the Blue City, and then took another taxi to the North District, finding a hotel to check into. There were plenty of tourists from the east like Lin Yi, so no one in the hotel paid any attention to Lin Yi. Lin Yi took a quick look at the room before leaving the hotel with his sunglasses on, wandering the streets of the North District. Chapter 323. Chapter 323. First time in the city, Lin Yi walked the streets of the Northern District leisurely. Lin Yi didn't have a destination in mind, so all he needed to do was remember the way back. At an ATM, Lin Yi took out a few €1,000 and put it in his pocket before continuing to stroll around the Northern District. A car repair factory. Lin Yi frowned. He'd never known it before, but now that he'd come out, he realized just how big the Northern District was. There were all sorts of people with nightclubs, discotheques, and karaoke all over the place. It seemed like the closer he got to the Blue Water's HQ, the more businesses there were. Lin Yi didn't believe that these were just legal. Lin Yi saw a couple of women flirting with him as he walked past. Of course, Lin Yi didn't know if the sex trade was illegal here, and Lin Yi didn't have the time to look into it either. After a moment of silence, he made a bold decision. He stopped a man with a scar on his face and a blue baseball cap. This guy didn't look like a good person at first glance, especially the obvious gang emblem on top of his head, which could also prove this point. He wasn't one of the higher-ups of the Blue Water, though. What kind of person would walk around alone without a bodyguard? Do you know who I am, kid? Do you want to die? The scarred man wasn't expecting Lin Yi to stop him. He started yelling in the local language. Hey, don't rush, bro. Lin Yi pretended to be cautious as he looked around. I'm from out of town and I heard that the Blue Water Gang has some cheap cars for sale. I'd like to buy one to play with. Do you have any connections, bro? Don't worry, there'll be benefits. Oh? You want to buy a car? The scarred man looked Lin Yi up and down. Lin Yi's skin was obviously foreign and he didn't look like a spy from the cops either. He didn't say anything else. The Blue Water did have a large number of stolen cars in their hands, and that was one of their main sources of income. They'd buy illegal and stolen cars from other cities, change their engine numbers and license plates, and then sell them to the less well-managed areas. As a low-level member of the Blue Water Gang, selling stolen cars, drugs, and even bringing customers to the casino would earn them a hefty commission. That was pretty much how they lived. So the scarred man was interested when he heard that Lin Yi wanted to buy a car. What car are you buying? How much is it? Scarface didn't ask Lin Yi what he was buying the car for, since there was no need to ask. It was a rule in the industry, and if people didn't ask about the origin of the car, then there was no need to care about what the car was for. In any case, the money was exchanged and the goods were exchanged. They did not owe each other anything, and after that they did not know each other. Anything is fine as long as it's a little cheaper. Lin Yi naturally wouldn't put on airs and buy a high-priced stolen car. Anyway, this kind of thing could be thrown away after it was used. Even if Lin Yi used Faubert's credit card, Lin Yi didn't want to cause trouble. Who knew if this guy in front of him was the kind of person who was greedy for money? What if he saw his extravagant spending and had evil thoughts? Lin Yi wasn't afraid of him, but Lin Yi's main goal was to bring Xia Jinbiao back to the country. He didn't plan on getting into any conflict with the Blue Water Gang. Whether they were good or bad had nothing to do with Lin Yi. Scarface wasn't disappointed by Lin Yi's words. After all, most of the luxury cars were smuggled to other countries, and the ones left for sale weren't anything good. It was good enough for someone like him to get a deal like this in a month, so he didn't mind. They're cheap, ranging from a few €100 to a few $1,000 are fine too. Take me there. Lin Yi said. Follow me. Scarface nodded and led Lin Yi through the northern district. Lin Yi followed behind him at a leisurely pace, arriving at the entrance of a car repair shop after 10 or so minutes of walking. A smile formed on Lin Yi's lips. It seemed that he'd made the right bet. The Blue Water's stolen cars were indeed stored in the factory. This repair shop was probably the Blue Water's headquarters. Who's this guy? A Blue Water member with a blue hat standing guard at the door recognized Scarface, but not Lin Yi. Here to buy a car. York greeted him with a smile and swaggered into the shop with Lin Yi. Evidently, they didn't think that Lin Yi would be able to cause much of a ruckus in Blue Water territory by himself. They didn't even bother with a body search before letting him in. Lin Yi shook his head inwardly. The Blue Water's management was a little too lax. In actuality, the Blue Water was the overlord of Blue City. The Blue Water members could wipe out anyone who tried to cause trouble in any part of the city, let alone the headquarters. York brought Lin Yi to a big yard at the back of the repair factory. There were close to 100 cars parked there. Some models Lin Yi had seen before and some he hadn't seen before. They all looked like they'd been there for a long time. They're all here. Pick one you like and give it a try, it's fine. York's attitude was quite nice. He'd get a high commission if this deal went through, and he'd have a month's worth of pocket money. This one. Lin Yi pointed at a nondescript old Santana. This one. I'll give you a discount. How about €500? York gave a price after a glance at the car Lin Yi was talking about. That's a little expensive, but I'm buying it with sincerity. Lin Yi shook his head. It's not expensive, it's a reasonable price. This is a car from 10 years ago and it's still very good. York said. 400. Lin Yi took a look at the model and condition of the car. It was probably from the 90s, and this car was probably as old as he was. 10 years. Chapter 324. A cool girl. Nope, remember my number. Call me if anyone tries to stop you. York paused before taking off his hat and handing it to Lin Yi. Here, you wear my hat and the cops in this city won't give us any trouble. Alright, thank you. Lin Yi put the hat on. I'll just say I'm Boss York's lackey if anyone gives me any trouble, alright? Of course. York was so happy that he couldn't stop smiling when Lin Yi called him boss. Just say it. I, York, have a bit of a reputation in this little blue city. Lin Yi nodded, counting out 400 euros and handing it to York. Lin Yi only had a few thousand euros in his pocket, so York wasn't too greedy. He let Lin Yi get in his car after taking the money. The keys were in the car, so there was no need to worry about it being stolen in the garage. Lin Yi drove out of the garage. Lin Yi's things were a lot easier now that he had the hat, and York thought he'd taken advantage of him. The car hadn't gone far when they saw a pretty girl trying to flag down a car. She waved when she saw Lin Yi's car coming over. Naturally, Lin Yi wasn't really interested in hitchhiking. There were at least 80 pretty girls who'd hit on him in the north, and no one knew what they did for a living. Lin Yi, however, was paying attention to the girl because she was an Asian. It was a strange feeling to see an Asian girl in a foreign country. The girl had a pair of sunglasses on her cool face, and a black outfit that was quite eye-catching. Lin Yi, however, felt a sense of familiarity, even though the sunglasses covered most of her face. Lin Yi wouldn't have stopped the car if it weren't for the fact that she looked familiar. Sup? Lin Yi was wearing a blue baseball cap and a pair of oversized sunglasses. His outfit was probably similar to this cool chick's, and it was hard to tell his true appearance from the outside. Handsome, can I hitch a ride? The cool chick squeezed out a smile on her cool face. Hitchhike? I don't even know where I'm going. How am I supposed to drive you? As Lin Yi spoke, he sized up the young girl. She looked very familiar, giving Lin Yi a feeling of déjà vu, but he couldn't remember where. He'd seen too many people these years, and it was normal for him to feel a sense of familiarity from time to time. That's great. Since you don't know where to go, just send me to Canhee Hotel. The cool girl opened the door of the front passenger seat and got in the car. Heh. Lin Yi smiled. I don't know where the Canhee Hotel is. The girl paused. Aren't you from the Blue Water Gang? How come you don't know where it is? I just joined. Is there a problem? Lin Yi shrugged. It's nothing. You drive, I'll show you the way. The girl's voice was a little disappointed but still cold. Lin Yi started the car and it started moving slowly. Lin Yi looked at the girl out of the corner of his eye. A tourist from out of town? But Lin Yi didn't think it was possible. How could a tourist from out of town be so bold as to stop a hitchhike on the street? How dare he hitchhike, especially after knowing he was a member of the Blue Water Gang? Wasn't she afraid of death? With that in mind, Lin Yi started to get curious about the girl's identity. Had he seen her before? If he could take off her sunglasses, he might be able to remember. Self-guided tour. The girl's answer surprised Lin Yi. Self-guided tour? Self-guided tour? You know about the Blue Water Gang? Lin Yi retorted. The girl was obviously lying. Of course I'm interested, I admire the strong. The cool chick tried her best to make her smile more charming and moving, but the forced smile on her cool face was almost the same as a sneer. Lin Yi was speechless. There was no way to lie like that, was there? But he still found it funny. Admire the strong? So you're here waiting for a hitchhike in front of the Blue Water Gang? Yeah, didn't I meet you? The cool chick smiled. Can you tell me about your gang? I want to know. Sorry, I just joined. Sorry to disappoint you. Lin Yi was getting more and more curious about the girl. She didn't even know how to lie, so what did she do? Then you should know who the leader of your gang is, right? Is it Charlton? I heard it's him. The girl asked. Probably. Lin Yi had done some research on the Blue Water Gang, and that seemed to be the leader's name. Then do you know where he is? The girl ignored Lin Yi's probably. Is he in this repair shop? Or Blue Castle? In the repair factory. Lin Yi answered offhandedly. This was the information he'd gotten from the taxi driver. I see. Then do you guys see him? Which building does he usually work in? The cool girl continued to ask curiously. That I don't know. Lin Yi wasn't really a member of the Blue Water Gang, so how would he know that much? Why don't you know anything? The girl was a little angry. Then can you take me to him? Why do you want to see him? Lin Yi felt that this girl was a little strange, but the question made Lin Yi frown. There was a black SUV following him from afar. He'd been too focused on talking to the girl and didn't even know where the hotel was. He'd been driving aimlessly and the car was still following them from afar. He wouldn't believe it if someone told him that he wasn't following them. The Blue Water Gang? Lin Yi frowned as he thought back to his previous actions. There wasn't anything suspicious about it and he hadn't even revealed his intentions. He didn't even have a lot of cash on him, so why would someone from the Blue Water be following him? What made Lin Yi curious was that the SUV had followed him from behind, and not from the Blue Water's repair shop. Lin Yi had looked behind him when he left the shop to make sure no one was following him. Could it be someone who was following the girl? With that thought, Lin Yi felt that it was possible. It was probably after the cool girl was picked up that the MPV behind them caught up. Connecting the dots between Lin Yi's claim that he didn't know the Canhee Hotel, the girl finally felt that something was wrong. Nope. Lin Yi admitted honestly. I was just going to buy a car, they gave me the hat. The girl was speechless. She frowned, feeling a little depressed and saddened. Was she really a flower in a greenhouse, unable to stand up for herself? She'd gotten hurt the first time she went on a mission, and it hadn't been easy for her to recover. The second time she went on a mission, her family sent someone to follow her from afar. But that wasn't all. The worst part was that she'd misjudged the situation and gotten into the car of someone who wasn't a member of the Blue Water Gang, and even talked so much with him. He was starting to suspect that his mission wasn't going to be a smooth one. The girl's hand shook at the thought and a sharp dagger appeared in her hand. She swung it lightly, aiming for Lin Yi's chest. Thump. Lin Yi grabbed the girl's hand. The girl hadn't expected him to grab her hand. She wasn't experienced in society, but her skills were top-notch. Otherwise, her family wouldn't have sent her out on a mission alone. She was confident in her skills. She'd made her move when Lin Yi was defenseless, and if she wasn't mistaken, Lin Yi was trying to figure out how to turn the car around. But Lin Yi had caught her hand while she was distracted. The girl's heart skipped a beat. She wanted to pull her hand back, but found that Lin Yi's hand was like a crab's clamp, holding her hand in place. You let go of me. The girl didn't just stand there. She clenched her other hand into a fist and punched at Lin Yi's face. Lin Yi frowned and dodged to the side. Didn't you go read up on Mr. Dongwa's story after you got back? Looks like I told you for nothing last time, you didn't listen to me. The girl froze, forgetting about her attack on Lin Yi. A look of disbelief appeared on her face. You're the one who molested me last time? I'm your savior. Lin Yi corrected. I saved your life and you tried to kill me? That's a classic case of biting the hand that feeds you. Today I was kind enough to give you a ride and I even answered a bunch of your questions for free and you tried to kill me again. A wronged look appeared on Chi-Chi's face. I was afraid that you'd ruin my plans, that's why I wanted to kill you. And last time if you hadn't touched my body, why would I have killed you? Lin Yi had been observing the girl on the way, trying to remember where he'd seen her before. He just couldn't be sure. But when the girl struck at the end, Lin Yi remembered. This girl was the assassin he'd seen in front of the pharmacy back in Songshan, the one who'd lost a lot of blood. You what? Lin Yi frowned. I'll count to 3 and get out of the car. Don't ever show up in front of me again, you little bitch, or I won't go easy on you. Lin Yi had to admit that Chi-Chi was very pretty. But having a girl who wanted to kill him every day beside him wasn't something Lin Yi wanted. He'd always be able to sense her before she made a move, and the jade could warn him in advance. Young Chi-Chi felt wronged as she looked at Lin Yi's fierce face. Fine, I'll get out. Revenge is a dish best served cold. I can't beat you now, but I'll come for you in 10 years. Chapter 326. Chapter 326. Sorry. Chi-Chi glared at Lin Yi before getting out of the car. Lin Yi stepped on the gas and the car sped away, and Chi-Chi realized that she was standing in front of the junkyard. There wasn't a single person here, nor were there any taxis. How was she supposed to get back? Chi-Chi wanted to cry as she yelled at Lin Yi's car. Lin Yi, I hate you. Just you wait. Lin Yi's car answered with a puff of black smoke. Chi-Chi helplessly took out her phone and dialed a number. Did you follow me? No. Just admit it. I'm at the junkyard, I'm lost, come get me. Alright, I'll be waiting. Lin Yi was driving out of the alleyway when the Mitsubishi SUV drove past him. Lin Yi frowned, it seemed that this car had something to do with the girl. After asking around for directions, Lin Yi got back to the hotel he was staying at. It was pretty easy to find the way. Lin Yi planned to make his move at night, so he didn't have much to do during the day. He parked the car in the hotel's parking lot. Putting the blue baseball cap York gave him on the driver's seat to prevent car thieves or unnecessary trouble before entering the hotel. Lin Yi did this because he'd seen a lot of cars like this on the road. It must be some sort of secret signal for the Blue Water Gang. Putting a blue baseball cap in the car would keep thieves away. Lin Yi went back to his hotel room and took a nap. He was going to make his move at night, forcefully taking Xie Jinbiao out and back to China. At the same time, Chi-Chi was sitting next to an old man in one of the rooms of Canhe Hotel, a little troubled. Her cool face was red with anger. Grandpa Tombstone, that Lin Yi is a bastard. I'm going to kill him. How dare he leave me in the junkyard? You said that person's name is Lin Yi? Mu Bei paused at the name. Yeah. What, you've heard of this name before, Grandpa Tombstone? Chi-Chi asked curiously. Nothing. Tombstone shook his head. Let's not go for tonight's operation. I'll talk to the patriarch and cancel it. No, I must kill that Charlandon. Chi-Chi shook her head stubbornly. I have to prove to my father that I'm a qualified assassin. All right then, Miss Yang, please be careful. Tombstone said helplessly. However, I will stay outside the repair factory. If there is any situation, call me at any time. Got it. There was a hint of unwillingness on Chi-Chi's cool face. She didn't want Mu Bei to follow her, but there was nothing she could do. Grandpa Mu Bei must have been sent by her mother. That night Lin Yi made his move. Lin Yi parked his car not far from the repair factory he'd been to earlier in the day and put on his blue baseball cap, striding into the factory. The Blue Water member guarding the door only raised his head slightly to look at Lin Yi, but didn't stop him. He went back to his video game. The people who came to the repair factory at night were all Blue Water members. Normal people wouldn't come to a place like this at night, so the guard didn't think that Lin Yi would come looking for trouble alone. Lin Yi kept his head down with the blue baseball cap on so no one noticed him. There were at least 300 people dressed like Lin Yi in the factory, all busy with their own things. Lin Yi wasn't in a rush to find out where Jinbiao was being held. He walked around the factory a couple of times, memorizing the layout of the place. You guys go check out Mr. Wyhan's casinos. Someone's causing trouble there. Bring him back and have his family and friends prepare $50,000 to pay for his ransom. A coarse voice called out to a few Blue Water members. Yes. After these members received the order, they got into a few cars and sped away. The man who'd been cursing earlier was about to leave when a knife appeared on his neck. Don't scream or I'll kill you. Lin Yi was actually looking for a Blue Water leader as he walked around the factory. Normal gang members wouldn't be able to find out where Jinbiao was being held. After all, everyone was busy with their own business. Kidnapping Jinbiao to extort money from Guangbo wasn't a big deal. At least the Blue Water Gang did this sort of thing quite often. Even their leader, Charlton, didn't know about it. Charlton only looked at the final profits of the gang. As for how that was handled by the mid-level leaders. So he couldn't just grab a random person to find out where Jinbiao was being held. That was why Lin Yi hadn't made a move yet, choosing a target instead. Lin Yi wanted to hit the target in one go and not blindly ask a bunch of people. That would only alert the enemy. But finally, Lin Yi ran into the leader who'd ordered his men to capture Jinbiao. Lin Yi was delighted. The person he'd been looking for was finally here. What do you want? The leader was just about to cry for help when he heard Lin Yi's voice. The knife on his neck was real and cold, and he couldn't guarantee that the guy behind him wouldn't stab him to death. Where are the people you've captured? Lin Yi asked. Cut the bullshit and answer me. Don't blame me if you lie. Who are you looking for? Tell me the name and I'll call my men to release them. The leader said carefully. Lin Yi snorted coldly, cutting the knife into the leader's neck. Blood gushed out. I told you to cut the bullshit and answer me. Are you deaf? Or do you want to die now? I don't mind killing you and asking someone else. Don't all talk? Originally, the leader wanted to play a trick and find out who Lin Yi was looking for. Then he'd let his men bring the person out as a hostage to force Lin Yi to give in. But obviously, Lin Yi wasn't even interested in talking. On the count of 3, 3, 2, Lin Yi increased the strength of the knife in his hand. In the basement of the building in front. Don't kill me. I've already said. The leader was scared. It's in the building in front. Let me go. 1. Lin Yi said the last number. Sorry, I didn't stop. Chapter 327. Chapter 327. Thief Lin Yi took off the leader's baseball cap and shoved the body under a car that hadn't been driven in a while. No one would be able to find him for a while, probably only when his body rotted and started to smell. Of course, Lin Yi didn't believe the leader's words completely. Who knew if he had ulterior motives? Lin Yi didn't go to the building the leader was talking about right away. What if it was a trap? Lin Yi wasn't that careless. Lin Yi walked around the building and crouched down quietly at the door like a normal Blue Water member. A Blue Water member walked out after a while and Lin Yi followed him, putting a knife to his neck after he'd walked for a while. But this time the member spoke up before Lin Yi could say anything. Bro, don't kill me. I just wanted to sneak in to see if I could get some loot, but I went into the wrong place. I didn't do anything, I didn't steal anything. You can search me if you don't believe me, I really didn't steal anything. Please let me go. Lin Yi paused, speechless. This guy had snuck in just like him? And from what he said, he seemed to be a thief who wanted to fish in troubled waters? Where did you get that hat? Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I stole it. The thief didn't try to hide anything. I saw someone leave it in the car, but the window wasn't closed, so I stole it. I heard this was where the Blue Water made their money, so I came to try my luck. Bro, it's really my first time here. Oh? Then what did you see when you went in? Lin Yi asked. I didn't see anything really, I won't tell anyone. The thief was on the verge of tears. Tell me the truth. What did you see? Lin Yi asked helplessly. He didn't expect this thief to misunderstand him and think that he wanted him to keep it a secret. Big brother, you're also a sensible person. You know that's where you keep the hostages. Although I saw it, I won't tell anyone. Really, don't worry. I'll keep it to myself. The thief said honestly, I'm not a professional. I won't report you. Lin Yi listened to the thief's words and knew that he misunderstood, but Lin Yi didn't explain. Now that he had confirmed that this building was really a place to hold the hostages, it was fine. No one noticed you after you went in? Don't tell me there aren't any of our people inside? Lin Yi asked. No, there's no one from you inside, except for the hostages behind the iron bars. The thief thought that Lin Yi was just asking a routine question, so he answered truthfully. He didn't have time to think about why Lin Yi was asking these questions. He was already sweating profusely. If I let you go just like that, I'll have to bear the risk if the higher-ups ask. Lin Yi didn't want to kill the thief anymore, it'd be more troublesome to deal with the corpse. He might as well let the thief go. But he had to make sure that he didn't get suspicious if he let the thief go too smoothly. Big brother. The thief took out a stack of money from his pocket. This is my earnings for the day. You can use it to buy some cigarettes. Okay, you know your place. Now scram. Lin Yi took the money and stuffed it into his pocket in satisfaction, sheathing the knife. The thief ran off gratefully, not even looking back as he left the place. Thinking about it, he didn't dare to stay any longer and would probably run out of the repair factory. Lin Yi made sure that there weren't any Blue Water members in the building from the thief's mouth, and so he swaggered in. The first floor was a big hall, but there was nothing there. The second floor was sealed off, evidently used as a warehouse. Lin Yi went down to the basement and saw rows upon rows of prison-like cells. Some had people sitting in them, some didn't, but none of them raised their heads to look at Lin Yi as he walked past. All of them looked dejected and dispirited. They were probably hostages that the Blue Water gang had come up with all sorts of excuses, waiting for their families and friends to come with money to redeem them. Still, the Blue Water gang was pretty cocky, running a blackmail business like this in broad daylight. It seemed that the security here had fallen to a certain level. Xie Jinbiao. Lin Yi couldn't be bothered to look for them one by one, so he called out the name. Here, here. One of the men in the cell stood up excitedly, waving at Lin Yi as he walked to the edge of the cell. Lin Yi nodded and quickly walked over. The other hostages were evidently used to this and didn't even raise their heads. Whoever brought the money would be called out and released, while the others wouldn't be able to get out no matter what. They didn't seem to care about Lin Yi's arrival at all. You're Xie Jinbiao? Lin Yi looked at Jinbiao, noticing that he was very different from the picture Guanghua had given him. In the picture Guanghua had given him, Jinbiao was tall and strong, but this Xie Jinbiao in front of him looked like a sickly person, skinny as a monkey. But upon closer inspection he could tell that it was the same person. Yes, that's me. Did my dad transfer the money? Jin Biao was a little excited. He'd thought that he was dead for sure, but his father had found a way. Jin Biao roughly knew how much money his family had, but the debt this time was too much. Jin Biao estimated that even if his father borrowed money, he wouldn't be able to borrow so much money, so he was already a little desperate. Lin Yi unlocked the door with a metal wire and let Jin Biao out. Come with me. Jin Biao followed Lin Yi carefully. He was so excited that he didn't even see Lin Yi open the door with the metal wire, thinking that Lin Yi was a real member of the Blue Water Gang. Where's my dad? Jin Biao asked again when he saw that Lin Yi wasn't talking. Where's my dad? Can I go now? Put this on and don't talk nonsense. Follow me. Chapter 328. Chapter 328. Her again. I'm the one who's bringing you back. Lin Yi knew that if he didn't explain himself, the kid wouldn't follow him. Your old man doesn't have that much money, so stop asking questions if you don't want to die. You're my dad's man? Jin Biao blinked in surprise. Since when did my dad have such a powerful man? That's amazing. Lin Yi rolled his eyes. Why was this Jin Biao just as stupid as his old man? He snorted. I wouldn't even take your old man in as my man. Jin Biao finally realized that this person wasn't his father's man, but an expert that his father had hired to save him. Jin Biao's attitude turned respectful. I'll listen to you, big brother. Lin Yi was amused. This kid was a typical rich second generation. He was so cocky when he thought he was his father's man, but now that he knew he wasn't, he was trying to suck up to him. But Lin Yi couldn't be bothered with him. Bringing him back to the country was the same as completing his mission, and getting his father's shares in exchange would be considered a success. It was a simple mission, not challenging at all. Lin Yi shook his head and walked with Jin Biao to the door of the repair factory. But they hadn't gone far when they heard a commotion. Catch him. Don't let him get away. Kill him. Bang. Bang. A few gunshots rang out, followed by the screams of a man and a woman. It was obvious that both sides were injured. Lin Yi frowned. Did someone else invade this place besides him? The thief must have left long ago, so it couldn't be the thief they were trying to catch. And the thief couldn't have a gun on him. It was quite a busy night for 3 groups of people to come to this small repair factory. Big brother, what do we do? Did they find us? What should we do? They all have guns. Jin Biao also heard the shout and was so scared that he almost fell to the ground. Shut up. They didn't find us but someone else. Lin Yi glared at the fool and said unhappily, just follow me. Don't talk too much and don't look around. Oh, I know. Jin Biao hurriedly nodded and said, Big brother, will you protect me? If you keep blabbering like this and expose yourself, I'll run away on my own. You can stay here and die. Lin Yi snorted coldly and continued walking forward, ignoring Jin Biao. Jin Biao still wanted to say something, but he was frightened by Lin Yi's cold words and didn't dare to speak. He carefully followed behind Lin Yi. The more chaotic it got, the better it was for Lin Yi. Everyone was focused on the intruder and no one paid attention to Lin Yi and Jin Biao, who were obviously Blue Water members. And so Lin Yi calmly led Jin Biao towards the door. As expected, no one stopped them. Jin Biao's heart was in his throat. He wasn't as calm as Lin Yi, sweating profusely. These were real weapons, killing people without blinking an eye. How could he not be afraid? Lin Yi frowned abruptly. The sounds were getting nearer and nearer, and it seemed that the intruder was running towards them. Lin Yi was speechless. He turned to Jin Biao. Hurry, they're coming. Jin Biao nodded and quickened his pace with Lin Yi. Bang. A gunshot rang out, followed by a scream of pain. It was a woman's voice. The 2 brothers in front, hurry up and stop that chick in front. A loud voice rang out from behind Lin Yi. Lin Yi had no choice but to stop his footsteps. If he didn't turn back now, the people behind him would probably open fire. If he was alone, he was confident that he'd be able to dodge the bullets behind him and escape. But there was a burden beside him. He could leave, but Jin Biao couldn't. Although Lin Yi had threatened him that he'd leave him behind, Lin Yi couldn't just leave him like that. Leaving him here would mean giving up on Guangbu's shares. Don't talk, follow me. Lin Yi told Jin Biao before turning around to see a figure in black lying not far from him. It was the intruder who'd been shot, but he didn't expect it to be a woman. Lin Yi pretended that he was going to capture the intruder as he walked to the side of the black figure. "Hey brother, what do you think of this chick?" The leader who chased after them called out to Lin Yi with a lewd look. Lin Yi squatted down, but he was stunned. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. Because the girl on the ground was the cool chick he met during the day. Lin Yi didn't know what to say. This chick repeatedly appeared in front of him and brought trouble to him. She even bit the hand that fed her. To tell the truth, Lin Yi really wanted to leave her here, but she was an Asian after all, and it could be said that they were fated to meet twice in a blue city like this. It was quite a rare encounter. Lin Yi wasn't a person who liked to meddle in other people's business. In fact, Lin Yi was a person who didn't care if it was none of his business. But this chick was someone he knew and they were from the same sect. If he ignored her and left her here, he was afraid that she would be in danger. Just looking at the gleaming eyes of the pursuers was enough to tell how dangerous this chick was. "It's my bad luck to run into you." Lin Yi took a deep breath and snatched the gun from the chick's hand. He aimed at the leader of the pursuers and fired. The bullet went straight in between the eyebrows and the leader fell to the ground without a doubt. Lin Yi tucked the chick under his armpit with one hand and grabbed Jin Biao by the collar with the other, running towards the factory. In actuality, Lin Yi was just playing with the timing, catching the Blue Water pursuers off guard and causing them to suffer a loss. Lin Yi had pretended to be a member of the Blue Water to help the pursuers stop the chick, so the pursuers naturally treated Lin Yi as one of their own. They were no longer nervous. To them, the chick's capture was a foregone conclusion. He took the room card and started walking towards the hotel, trembling. "Wait, take off your hat." Lin Yi pointed at the blue baseball cap on Jin Biao's head. If he were to put on this hat now, he'd definitely attract the waitress's attention. If the Blue Water really did come here to search, the waitress's mouth might slip and that'd be bad for them. Yes. Jin Biao quickly took his hat off, evidently thinking of that as well. He felt a wave of fear. It seemed that he wasn't as cautious as Lin Yi. "Go up yourself, go in through the back door. Try not to let anyone see you," Lin Yi said faintly. The Blue Water wouldn't know that Jin Biao had been rescued at this point. All their attention was on the female assassin and the traitor. But it was better to be safe than sorry. "I understand, I'll be careful." Jin Biao's legs had regained some feeling as well. It was still a little soft, but he didn't dare stay. He was afraid that Lin Yi would really abandon him if he didn't listen to him and leave him here to die. Lin Yi only turned around after Jin Biao entered the hotel. "You're not dead, are you? Tell me where you're staying if you're not." "Can he hotel?" Chi-Chi's pale face squeezed out a hint of gratitude. "Thank you, no need, just don't kill me next time." Lin Yi didn't care at all for the girl's gratitude. "Can you turn on the reading light in the car? I want to take the bullet out first." Chi-Chi knew that she'd attract unwanted attention if she went back to the hotel like this. She wanted to take the bullet out first, stop the bleeding and put on some clothes to cover her body. Wouldn't that attract unwanted attention? Lin Yi was starting to curse. "Which master taught you? Why aren't you dead yet, being an assassin?" Chi-Chi's face was a little red as she glared at Lin Yi. "Don't talk about my master like that. This is only my second mission. My mom said that people grow up through failure." "Second time?" Lin Yi was speechless. "So that was your first time in Songshan?" "Yeah." Chi-Chi humphed softly and nodded. How am I supposed to endure this?" Lin Yi was going crazy. "I finally know why you're still alive. It's because you met me twice or you'd be dead already." He had only carried out 2 missions in total and was injured twice. Was there such a stupid assassin? Was there? Lin Yi was speechless. This girl was too strong. She looked cool but she was a weakling. "It's not that bad, just a little unlucky." Chi-Chi lowered her head, embarrassed. "I think I'm even more unlucky than you are." Lin Yi smiled bitterly. "I really don't know who let you out on a mission. Your social experience is basically zero. Everyone has a time when they're young. How can they be strong without experience?" Chi-Chi retorted coolly. "Alright, I'm unlucky. Where did the bullet hit you? I'll get it for you." Lin Yi didn't dare turn on the reading light that would attract curious people. Chapter 330. Chapter 330, Never See Again. Yeah. Chi-Chi nodded. "Undress? What are you thinking about?" Lin Yi glared at the cool girl and barked at her. Undress. Undress. You need more? Chi-Chi wasn't sure what to say. Just open the shoulder. Lin Yi frowned. I've seen what I needed to see last time. I'm not interested in someone who's always trying to kill me. Who cares? A trace of annoyance appeared on Chi-Chi's cool face, but she still pulled her collar down, revealing her snow-white shoulder. There was a bloody hole on her shoulder, especially eye-catching. It was the mark of a bullet. Cut the crap. Lin Yi looked at the girl's shoulder and used his dagger to make a light cut. With a flick, a bullet flew out and landed on the car seat. Lin Yi took out some herbs he made from his pocket and sprinkled it on the girl's wound. Don't wear your clothes, it'll be fine in a bit. Oh. Her wound had miraculously healed under Lin Yi's care, and new flesh had grown out that very night. Chi-Chi trusted Lin Yi's skills very much. Most importantly, it didn't leave any scars. Chi-Chi thought that it was quite miraculous. She was an assassin and getting injured was a common occurrence. But she was still a girl, she cared about the scars on her skin, and Lin Yi's herbs seemed to be able to remove any scars. He'd prepared this for himself, he'd always bring some with him whenever he went on a mission. But this mission wasn't dangerous at all. He'd thought that he wouldn't need it, but it turned out that he'd be using it on this cool girl. After dealing with the wound on the girl's shoulder, Lin Yi turned to the girl's calves. Chi-Chi had rolled up her pants a long time ago. Lin Yi slashed and flicked and the bullet flew out. He quickly sprinkled some herbs on it and the bleeding stopped. All right, don't do dangerous things like this again, you're not suited to be an assassin. You're really cool and you look like a little assassin, but assassins aren't always cool just like me. Lin Yi said seriously to the girl. You. Chi-Chi's eyes went wide. Weren't assassins supposed to be cool? Her mother was always cool at home, cold and only smiling when she saw her father. Alright, I'll send you back. Can he hotel right? Lead the way. Lin Yi didn't give Chi-Chi a chance to say anything as he turned to the driver and started the car. Go straight, then turn right. Chi-Chi could only give Lin Yi directions, a troubled look on her face. Was she really not suited to be an assassin? This big liar must be talking nonsense. Yes, he must be afraid that she'd get stronger and come back to kill him. If that had to be it. Lin Yi, just you wait, I'll surpass you sooner or later. You do remember the way you're qualified to be an assassin. It was rare for Lin Yi to praise the girl, and Chi-Chi was just about to cheer when Lin Yi said, but you're more suited to be a tour guide or a taxi driver. You. Chi-Chi was getting pissed off. Wasn't this guy just saying that she wasn't qualified to be an assassin? Had he never failed a mission before? Hey, what are you doing there tonight? Don't tell me you've never failed a mission before? Chi-Chi asked, unsatisfied. I'm going to bring someone out, you've seen him already. Lin Yi didn't hide anything. As for failure, I'm sorry, but I really want to taste it. Bullshit. Chi-Chi's face flashed with suspicion. Hey, that herb of yours is pretty good. Can you give me some? Are you the one who's trying to kill me today? Lin Yi looked at the girl, amused, and teased her. Then I'll buy it with money, alright? How much is it? I'll give you the money. Chi-Chi was getting a little embarrassed by Lin Yi's question. I made it myself, it's priceless. Lin Yi looked at the girl. But since you have the ring on your finger, I'll give you the remaining half. Lin Yi tossed the half bottle of herbs to the cool girl. Thank you. Chi-Chi was pleased. Lin Yi was right, this was a priceless treasure. Don't think you can get hurt just because you have this potion, you should just stay at home. Being an assassin doesn't suit you. He got out of the car and bought a set of casual clothes from a convenience store next to the hotel, handing it to the cool girl when he got back. Chi-Chi wanted to retaliate at Lin Yi's insults, but Lin Yi had gotten out of the car. She didn't know what Lin Yi was up to, but Lin Yi was already back. Put it on and go up yourself, Lin Yi said. Chi-Chi wanted to argue with Lin Yi, but seeing how thoughtful Lin Yi was, even buying clothes for her, Chi-Chi felt touched. She couldn't speak anymore. I'm going by. Chi-Chi got out of the car, feeling that the wound on her leg wasn't hurting anymore. It seemed that Lin Yi's herbs were really effective. It'd be best if we don't see each other again. I won't save you if you die next time, so troublesome. Lin Yi waved his hand helplessly and drove off. Chi-Chi stomped her foot on the ground, pissed off. But stomping her foot pulled at her wound, almost causing her to cry out in pain. She didn't dare stomp her foot again and carefully made her way back to the hotel. What? Chi-Chi was puzzled. Where was Grandpa Mubei? Didn't he say he was waiting for her in front of the Blue Water HQ? How come she didn't see him when she came out? Plus, why didn't Grandpa Mubei stop her when Lin Yi brought her into the car? In actuality, Chi-Chi really did accuse Tombstone wrongly. Tombstone had been waiting at the factory's entrance the whole time, and was about to charge in when he saw that something was wrong when Lin Yi grabbed Chi-Chi and ran out first. After making sure that it was Lin Yi who brought the miss away, Mubei returned to the hotel with peace of mind. After all, Lin Yi was the pride and joy of the organization's leader. With him there, Mubei had nothing to worry about. Gubong didn't suspect that Guangbo was faking it. In actuality, Guangbo didn't have a cold. The reason he looked haggard was because he was worried about his son's safety. He'd seen Lin Yi's skills, but as the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands, especially in a foreign country where he wasn't familiar with. It was a difficult thing to bring his son back no matter how you looked at it. Chapter 333. Chapter 333. Don't mess with him, ding dong. The doorbell rang and Guangbo frowned tiredly. Could it be that Jean Gubong couldn't wait any longer and was here again? He'd just been here yesterday. Guangbo didn't want to see Gubong, but he still ordered the housekeeper to open the door for him. She blinked as the door opened, staring at the person in disbelief. Why, you're the young master. Wang Ma stared at the skinny Jin Biao, too shocked to speak. Wasn't this a little too frightening? Wang Ma. It's me. Jin Biao was quite emotional as well. Wang Ma had been very young when he'd left, but her hair had turned white in the blink of an eye. Guangbo had been pretending to be sick on the sofa. Thinking that it was Jean Gubong, he jumped up when he heard his son's voice. Son, you're back. Dad. Jin Biao was quite emotional as well. He'd been living a carefree life abroad, but it was only now that he was home that he truly felt the best. Alright, you two can catch up later. Where's my shares? Lin Yi would be lying if he said he wasn't touched by the father-son relationship, but Lin Yi didn't feel any pity for them. Jin Biao had been a complete black sheep of the family. It was the father's fault for not teaching his son properly. Guangbo had been so busy making money that he hadn't had the time to discipline his son. He'd thought that he'd be able to save up a fortune for his son, but in the end, it was all for naught. Guangbo was quite happy that his son was back, but hesitated when he remembered that he'd given all his shares to Lin Yi. He'd be left with nothing after that. It didn't matter if he didn't have any money, but would his son be able to live a poor life? He'd given all his money and shares to Lin Yi because he'd been worried about his son's safety, but now that his son was back he couldn't help but worry. Many people were like that. Once they had something they'd want to have it again. They'd always be greedy and unwilling. He really didn't want to give his shares to Lin Yi right now. Mr. Lin, what do you think about this? I'll transfer half of my shares to you unconditionally, and leave the other half to Jin Biao. I promise he won't support Jean Gubong. Guangbo said after some hesitation. Lin Yi frowned. This guy had learned to go back on his word? It was good enough that he didn't ask for all of his assets, but he still wanted to play this game with him? Just as Lin Yi was about to curse, Jin Biao spoke first. Dad, don't talk nonsense. You should give this big brother what you deserve. Don't mess with him. I don't want to die. Jin Biao almost fell to the ground when he heard his father's words. Lin Yi's display of power in the Bluewater HQ was still fresh in his mind. Jin Biao was afraid that Lin Yi would kill him if he wasn't happy. Jin Biao? You? Guangbo was stunned. He had risked his life to keep some shares, but wasn't it for his son? But why didn't her son want it? Dad, just give it to this big brother. It's good enough that I came back alive. Jin Biao had been through life and death, and he'd truly experienced the terror of death. He didn't want to be targeted by someone even scarier than Lin Yi anymore. Alright, I don't need those shares if you don't want them. Guangbo nodded and raised his head to look at Lin Yi. I'm sorry, I was being greedy. I was thinking that you could take my life anytime you wanted, Mr. Lin, but I didn't think that. Never mind, I'll get the documents for you right away. I'll transfer all the shares under my name to you. Guangbo went upstairs and took out the documents he'd prepared beforehand, signing the transfer agreement with Lin Yi. I don't need the villa, you guys can stay here. Lin Yi looked at Jin Biao. Alright, I'm leaving. You guys continue reminiscing. Lin Yi found a public phone after leaving Guangbo's villa and called Pengzhan. Hello? How are you? Guangbo was feeling uneasy and so was Pengzhan. He hadn't heard from Lin Yi for the past 2 days. and he couldn't even focus on his documents. His phone rang and he picked it up. It was an unfamiliar number. He didn't want to pick it up at first, but he did after some hesitation. Uncle Chu? I'm Lin Yi. Lin Yi's voice sounded from the other side of the phone. Peng Zhan was overjoyed. He'd been thinking about Lin Yi all this time, and the fact that Lin Yi was calling put him at ease. Peng Zhan didn't really care if they could save Xie Jinbiao or not, as long as Lin Yi was safe. But the number was from Song's Han, and Peng Zhan found it odd. Was it a long-distance connection? Lin Yi, where are you? Are you all right? Peng Zhan asked. I'm fine, I just came back and I'm on my way to your company now. Are you there? Lin Yi asked. I'm here, where are you? I'll get Li Fu to pick you up. Peng Zhan said, relieved that Lin Yi was already back in Song's Han. It's fine, I'll take a taxi, Lin Yi said. All right, I'll wait for you in my office. Peng Zhan didn't insist after listening to Lin Yi. After all, Lin Yi was already back in Song's Han and there was no danger. Lin Yi flagged down a taxi and headed straight to Peng Zhan Industries. There wasn't any traffic during the day, and it took less than 10 minutes for Lin Yi to arrive at the gates of Peng Zhan Industries. Lin Yi had come to Peng Zhan Industries a couple of times already, and the security guard at the gates had quite an impression of Lin Yi after what happened last time. He welcomed Lin Yi with a smile. Lin Yi nodded and went straight to Peng Zhan's office. He knocked on the door and Faubert was standing inside. Mr. Lin, you're here. Mr. Chu is waiting for you inside. Faubert was a little surprised to see Lin Yi. Peng Zhan had told him that Lin Yi was back, but Faubert still couldn't believe it. It hadn't even been 2 days and Lin Yi had already brought Xie Jinbiao back? But where was Xie Jinbiao? Had he failed the mission? But Faubert didn't ask too much since Peng Zhan was there. Peng Zhan would find out everything in detail. Peng Zhan stood up to greet Lin Yi personally, showing how much he valued Lin Yi. I was worried before, but it looks like you're fine. That's great. But, Uncle Chu, didn't I say it before? It's just a small matter. Lin Yi shrugged with a smile. Chapter 334. New shareholder. I brought him back, but I've already sent him home. Lin Yi said, that kid is as timid as a mouse and as thin as a stick. Return him to his father as soon as possible. Don't let him die on the road. Oh? Peng Zhan was overjoyed after hearing Lin Yi's words. You've sent him home already? That's great, I didn't expect it. Lily, you're my lucky star. Ever since you came, all the troubles on my side have been easily resolved. Uncle Chu, don't let your guard down. Jean Gubong's just a clown at the front desk, the people behind him are the key. Lin Yi reminded. He's just a spokesperson. I know, but they have been plotting against my Peng Zhan Industries for a long time. If there wasn't a mole working with them, they wouldn't have succeeded. I almost got tricked by that old geezer Jean Gubong this time. I'll teach him a lesson. Peng Zhan nodded, smiling coldly. Naturally, he knew that a tall tree would attract the wind, but if all the shareholders were to stick together, there wouldn't be a chance for outsiders to take advantage of them. Since Uncle Chu knows, I won't say any more. Lin Yi wasn't interested in the company at all. You're too kind, Uncle Chu. I think we shouldn't let Gubong stay in the company after this is over. Make him give up his shares and get the hell out of here. This time I won't let a tiger grow in my bosom again. Peng Zhan sighed. I used to close one eye because of my parents, but now the company has reached a point where it has to be reorganized. Don't worry. Uncle Chu won't cause you any more trouble. Peng Zhan sighed. It's not really trouble. My old man told me to come here to listen to my employer's orders. Lin Yi said with a smile, embarrassed. He'd put a lot of effort into this mission and he was looking forward to retiring in one go. By the way, what did Guangbo say? He won't be supporting Jean Gubong anymore, will he? Peng Zhan asked the question he was most concerned about after the small talk. Of course not. You've given me all the shares. Lin Yi said as he handed Guangbo's shares over to Peng Zhan. This is the contract I signed with him, we just need to sign a new one and it'll be under your name. Peng Zhan was taken aback. He didn't think that Lin Yi would be able to get his hands on Guangbo's shares. He had heard Lin Yi mention this before, but he didn't take it seriously. Although Xie Guangbo had no desires, the only thing he couldn't let go of was his son. How could he give away all the shares in his hands? As far as Peng Zhan was concerned, Guangbo would rather die than leave something for his son. He really gave you the shares? Peng Zhan was pleasantly surprised. His original plan was for Guangbo to team up with him against Jin Gubang, but Lin Yi had surprised him even more. He wasn't worried that Guangbo would betray him this time because he had nothing to do with the company anymore. But the shares will be under your name. You deserve them. You got them with your own abilities, how can I take them back? Lin Yi didn't say anything. Peng Zhan waved his hand, rejecting Lin Yi's shares. Me. Lin Yi paused. He didn't expect Peng Zhan to give him the shares. That's part of your reward, I guess. Peng Zhan smiled. Alright, there's no need to say so much. You should keep this for yourself. But now, I need you to help me with something. What is it? Lin Yi asked. Just tell me what you need, Uncle Chu. Lin Yi didn't think about keeping the shares for himself after all. Lin Yi knew who was good to him and who wasn't. If it were Lu Tiany's family, Lin Yi might have asked for a commission as well. Peng Zhan, however, didn't need to do that. A shareholder meeting. Peng Zhan smiled. Li Fu, go inform the board that we're having a shareholder meeting right away. I want to introduce the company's third largest shareholder to them. Yes, Mr. Chu. Faubert nodded and left. Even the usually calm Faubert couldn't help but want to laugh. He wanted to see what kind of expression Gubang would have when he learned that Guangbo had given all his shares to Lin Yi. Gubang was puzzled. Peng Zhan was calling for a shareholder meeting? Was there something wrong with him? For the past few days, Peng Zhan had been looking for excuses to reject the meeting, so why was he calling for one today? Could it be that he'd gotten through Guangbo's plan, or was he preparing a new move? Guangbo shouldn't be at work today, right? Why was there a shareholder meeting if the company's third largest shareholder wasn't here? Despite his confusion, Gubang still arrived at the meeting punctually. He had to at least put on a show. There were more people in the shareholder meeting than the board of directors, and some of the smaller shareholders would attend as well. Gubang nodded to the shareholders he was familiar with before taking the seat to Peng Zhan's left. This was the seat he'd been sitting in all this time, the symbol of being the company's second largest shareholder. The seat to Peng Zhan's right was Guangbo's. Gubang frowned when he realized that there was no one at Guangbo's seat. Could it be that Peng Zhan was trying to bypass Guangbo and call the meeting? But if the third largest shareholder wasn't here, he wouldn't be able to hold the meeting. Time passed by and soon 10 minutes had passed since Faubert's notice. Gubang's face was dark as he sat in his seat, not moving an inch. He couldn't figure out what Peng Zhan was up to. Was he just calling all the shareholders here to cause a scene? Gubang was deep in thought when the meeting room went silent all of a sudden. He raised his head to see Li Fu walking in. This was the prelude to Peng Zhan's arrival, and Faubert would always be there first, setting up the documents and setting up the teacups for Peng Zhan. It wasn't long before Peng Zhan walked in with a young man by his side. Bodyguard or flower protector, I don't care what he does. I'd like to ask Chairman Chu, why is he here at the shareholders' meeting? And why is he sitting in Director Xie's seat? Are you trying to tell me that this is Director Xie's idea? Or is someone trying to use his position for personal gain? Are you retarded? I think you've eaten too many retarded pills just like that idiot Guangbo. Lin Yi didn't wait for Peng Zhan to speak. You're asking me why I'm sitting here? I'd like to ask you why you're sitting here. Who the hell are you? Director Xie's idea? Does that idiot Guangbo have the right to send me here? Who the hell is he? He's just a little bit stronger than you. I'm a shareholder of the company, one of the 3 biggest shareholders. Why can't I sit here? Gubang was pissed off by Lin Yi's words. Since when was he ever called an idiot? Lin Yi, on the other hand, was insulting him in front of so many people. Gubang was starting to get pissed off. Chairman Chu, I'd like to ask, someone like this is allowed to attend the shareholders' meeting? What right does he have to do that? And he dares to insult the shareholders. Security. Where are the security guards? Kick him out. The other shareholders were looking at Lin Yi, confused. Even if he was Peng Zhan's son-in-law, he couldn't be this arrogant, could he? Gubang was the second biggest shareholder, second only to Peng Zhan. Only Peng Zhan and Guangbo had the guts to go against him like this. The other smaller shareholders didn't even have the right to do so. But you're only Peng Zhan's son-in-law, not Peng Zhan. Isn't it a bit too much to insult a shareholder like this? If you dare insult the second biggest shareholder of the company, then wouldn't we, the smaller shareholders, be at your mercy? Peng Zhan spoke up just as everyone was looking at Lin Yi with disdain. Vice Chairman Jean, Mr. Lin Yi is now the new shareholder of the company, the biggest shareholder other than you and me. Peng Zhan's words caused an uproar in the room. Everyone looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. Wasn't the third biggest shareholder Xia Guangbua? How did it become Lin Yi? Gubang paused as he looked at Peng Zhan in disbelief before turning to Lin Yi. How is this possible? This is impossible. Peng Zhan, what are you trying to do? Gubang was going crazy at this point. He didn't believe Peng Zhan's words at all. It was simply too ridiculous. The third biggest shareholder of the company was Xia Guangbua. How could it be Lin Yi? I don't have time for your bullshit. Here's the transfer document, take a look. Lin Yi tossed out a document casually. It was the transfer agreement signed by Guangbua. Gubang grabbed the document and started reading it, glaring at Peng Zhan savagely after he was done. Impossible. I don't believe it, you guys made this up. Why would Xia Guangbua give his shares to you? And for free at that? Is he retarded? Gubang used the word retarded in a fit of rage. Chapter 336. Hope shattered in an instant. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Gubang was still talking to himself as he took out his phone. In actuality, as an old acquaintance of Guangbua's, he knew very well how Guangbua's signature looked and how he stamped it. From the surface, it didn't look like a forgery. Moreover, Peng Zhan wouldn't do something like this. It was pointless, even if he managed to gain the upper hand in a shareholder meeting. The moment Guangbua appeared, the scheme would fall apart on its own. Peng Zhan, on the other hand, would be labeled as dishonest and deceiving the shareholders. It wasn't worth it at all. As far as Gubang was concerned, however, Guangbua giving his shares to Lin Yi for free was even more impossible. Was Guangbua an idiot? His son was still in the hands of a foreign mafia, and his son owed a huge amount of money to the loan sharks. He'd be dead if he didn't pay it back. Guangbua's only option was to keep his shares in order to cooperate with Gubang, and that was his only way out. Giving his shares to Lin Yi at a time like this wouldn't help him in any way. He dialed Guangbua's phone only to find it turned off. Gubang didn't mind, however, since Guangbua's phone had been turned off for the past 2 days. Gubang dialed the landline in Guangbua's villa once more. Someone picked up after a while, but it wasn't Guangbua, it was an unfamiliar man's voice. Oh, who are you looking for? I'm looking for Mr. Guangbua. May I know if he's here? Gubang asked. Oh, you're looking for my dad? Hold on, I'll go get him. It was Jin Biao who picked up the phone. Guangbua was very happy today his son was home, and he was preparing to cook his son's favorite dishes. In actuality, while Guangbua had given all his shares to Lin Yi, he still had some real estate left. There were more than 10 houses in Songshan, along with some antiques and jewelry. He'd be able to sell them all for tens of millions of yuan, and it was more than enough to start a small business. Giving his shares to Lin Yi made him feel more relaxed. His days of starting a business with his son were the happiest days of his life. Wait, Guangbua is your dad? Who are you? Gubang's face was filled with shock. I am his son Xie Jinbiao. What's wrong? Who are you? Xie Jinbiao thought to himself, is this person an idiot? If I call him dad, who do you think I am? Weren't you captured by a foreign gang? Why are you home? Gubang asked in disbelief. Who are you? How did you know I was captured? Jin Biao frowned. Did you call to make trouble? No. I'm your dad's colleague. Gubang said, feeling that something was amiss. Why were there so many weird things happening today? Xia Guangbua's son had returned safely, but Xia Guangbua's shares had fallen into the hands of Lin Yi. My dad is here, you talked to him. Hearing that he was his father's colleague, Xia Jinbiao resisted the urge to scold him. Why was this guy so rude? Now that he was captured, he couldn't come back? After a while, Xia Guangbua's voice came through the phone. Hello? I'm Xia Guangbua. Old Xia, I'm old Jean. Gubang forced a smile. Was that your son? He's back. He's back. What's up? Guangbua's warm voice was no longer there, replaced by a cold, perfunctory tone. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. I'm cooking for my son. Wait, Peng Zhan's having a shareholder meeting. Do you know about this? Gubang wasn't about to let Guangbua hang up. He quickly asked. What does this have to do with me? I've already given my shares to someone else. Guangbo said impatiently. Alright, I'm hanging up if there's nothing else. Bye. Beep beep beep. Gubong's phone rang a couple of times before the screen said, "Call ended." Gubong was dumbfounded, completely dumbfounded. He breathed heavily, not knowing what to do. He'd thought that he was going to become the chairman a few minutes ago, but this phone call was like a bolt from the blue that struck him like a bolt of lightning. It was over, it was all over. Gubong knew that he had no chance of becoming the chairman now. What a joke, the first and third shareholders of the company were family now. What the hell was he supposed to do? I'm afraid that those small shareholders who previously sided with me will no longer side with me if they see this situation now. It was obvious that Ping Zhan and Lin Yi's side would be the strongest in the shareholder meetings in the future. There was no way he could win against them. His hope was shattered in an instant. Gubong didn't want to know how Lin Yi had gotten Guangbo's shares anymore, it was pointless. The only thing he could do now was think of a way to protect himself. Gubong was certain that Ping Zhan wouldn't go easy on him next. So whether or not he could become the chairman was secondary. Whether or not he could stay in the company was another matter altogether. Gubong. Gubong smashed the phone in his hand onto the ground, shattering it into pieces. Gubong smashed his phone on the floor and stood up, walking out of the meeting room without a backward glance. His face was dark and gloomy. Ping Zhan didn't mind it at all, it was normal for Gubong to react like this. Ping Zhan didn't mind at all, in fact it was quite satisfying. Ping Zhan had wanted to smash his phone when Gubong and Guangbo were singing the same tune. The purpose of this meeting is to introduce our new shareholder, Mr. Lin Yi. Ping Zhan smiled as he introduced Lin Yi to the other shareholders. The meeting room was filled with a round of applause. They weren't idiots, this person was the third largest shareholder of the company, and he had an intimate relationship with Ping Zhan's daughter. They wouldn't dare offend someone like that. Besides, no one doubted that Lin Yi was using Gubong's name to intimidate others. After all, Lin Yi had the right to be arrogant. He was the third largest shareholder of the company. Please take care of me. Lin Yi stood up and nodded to everyone. Next, I would like to propose that Lin Yi be a member of the company's board of directors. Please vote. Ping Zhan suggested. With Gubong gone, who would want to offend Ping Zhan for him? And so, without a doubt, Lin Yi became the new director of the company. Gubong's vote didn't matter anymore. $50 million. $80 million. Gubong said. Chapter 338. It worked. The first option Ping Zhan had given Gubong was just to scare him off. There was no real benefit to Ping Zhan if he really did find the evidence and put Gubong in jail for the rest of his life. Plus, even if the evidence was found, there was no guarantee that it would be of any use. How long would a lawsuit take? It was better to go with the second option. As long as Gubong wasn't an idiot, he'd definitely choose the second option. As expected, Gubong didn't disappoint Ping Zhan. Alright, 80 million it is then. It's a deal. Gubong wasn't in the mood to haggle with Ping Zhan, he had more important things to attend to. With this 80 million, he'd be able to start a small real estate company as compensation for Master Bing. Tihua wouldn't bother him anymore then, would he? Gubong felt like he'd lost two birds with one stone. Not only did he lose his position as chairman, but he'd also be forced to leave the company. He'd lost his shares in exchange for 80 million, and that 80 million might not even be his own. He'd have to give it to Master Bing. Gubong wouldn't mind fighting Ping Zhan head-on if Tihua were still supporting Gubong. He wasn't afraid of Ping Zhan at all with Tihua's support, but Gubong didn't have the time to fight with Ping Zhan now that Tihua was ready to kill him. Gubong didn't have the energy to fight with Ping Zhan right now. He'd better take the money and leave. That afternoon, Gubong completed his resignation procedures and handed over his shares to Ping Zhan. He left Ping Zhan Industries under the shocked and mocking gazes of the other shareholders with the 80 million in his retirement fund. Vice Chairman Jin had become a part of Ping Zhan Industries' history. He'd no longer be a part of the board of directors from now on. The shareholders and directors who'd wanted to stand on Gubong's side were all shocked. It was lucky that they hadn't gotten involved with Gubong, otherwise they'd be done for. They'd seen how powerful Gubong was back then, working with the third largest shareholder Xie Guangbo in preparation for the Operation Chu. But what had happened? Guangbu's shares had gone to Pingzhan's son-in-law for no reason at all, and Gubang's shares had been taken back by Pingzhan. Right now, Pingzhan Industries was under Chu Pingzhan's control. Most of the company's shares were in his hands. Meng Yao and Yushu were enjoying themselves when Lin Yi wasn't home. "Oh, I can finally walk around the house naked," Yushu said as she curled up on the sofa watching TV. Yushu often took off all her clothes the moment she got home, saying that wearing clothes would affect her body's growth. "Ahem, Shu, you need to be mindful of your image. Even if Lin Yi's not home, what if Faubert comes?" Meng Yao said helplessly. "Every time Faubert comes, he knocks on the door. He won't come in casually." Yushu, on the other hand, didn't seem to mind at all. She was still showing off her body to Meng Yao on the sofa. "Yao Yao, what do you think of my body recently? Stop showing off your boobs in front of me, I'll cut them off if you keep showing them off." Meng Yao glared at Yushu. Did she think she could show off her body just because she had a good figure? "Why don't you say you're not as tall as me? You've got all the nutrients in your boobs and I've got all the nutrients in my bones." "Oh, I'm not showing off." Yushu sat back on the sofa, depressed. Why didn't anyone praise her body? Seriously, she couldn't just show it to anyone, not even Meng Yao, who was the only one she could look at. Yushu felt helpless. "Go show off to your shield, bro, I'm not interested in you. Go away, I want to watch TV." Meng Yao said as she looked at Yushu disdainfully. "You're showing off here and there, aren't you just going to let other men touch you?" "Oh, I want to, but I'm afraid you won't agree, Yao Yao," Yushu said as she looked at Meng Yao. "Why wouldn't I agree?" Meng Yao didn't want to talk to Yushu anymore. "You're the main wife, so the main wife gets priority. You should be the one showing off first, I'll have to wait behind you," Yushu said with a grin. Meng Yao glared at Yushu. "Can't you calm down a little? I've noticed that you're the most obedient when Lin Yi's at home. I've finally realized the benefits of having Lin Yi at home." "Oh. Yao Yao, you miss Shield Bro too?" Yushu blinked as if she'd discovered a new continent. She waved her hands around on the sofa as she asked. "What do I miss?" Meng Yao said, a little annoyed. "I just want him to come back soon so you can have some peace. I can't take it anymore, I've been holding it in for 10 years. Meng Yao realized that she was at the end of her patience, especially since Lin Yi had been staying at her house for a while. Meng Yao had gotten used to Yushu's behavior, and now that Lin Yi was gone, Yushu was back to normal. Meng Yao prayed that Lin Yi would come back soon. Ka. The door to the villa was opened from the outside. "What?" Meng Yao's eyes went wide as she looked at the door in shock. No way. Her prayers had come true this quickly? Lin Yi was back. Her dreams had come true. Yushu was stunned as well. She'd been dancing around and making fun of Meng Yao just a moment ago, and now Lin Yi was barging in. Most importantly, the sofa Yushu was sitting on was facing the villa's doorway, and Lin Yi could see every part of her body clearly. "Did I come back at the wrong time?" Lin Yi gulped as he realized that moving his eyes away from Yushu's body was a very difficult decision, so difficult that he couldn't complete it. In actuality, Lin Yi had been drooling over Yushu for a long time, but because she was Meng Yao's best friend, Lin Yi hadn't dared to show it too much. But today, this was a golden opportunity and it'd be a waste not to see it. Besides, Master Lin comforted himself that this was an accident, and that Yushu was the one who'd asked him to see it. "Cover your eyes, you can't look." Meng Yao finally snapped back to reality and screamed, stopping Lin Yi's perverted behavior. "Oh." Yushu raised her hands, and just when everyone thought that she was going to cover her chest, Yushu covered her eyes with her hands. Chapter 339. Chapter 339. Nobody loses. "Shu, I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about Lin Yi." Meng Yao snapped before turning to Lin Yi. "What are you looking at? I'll gouge your eyeballs out and stomp on them." "Oh." Yushu pulled her hand away from her eyes before grabbing the blanket on the sofa and covering herself up. Her face was as red as a cooked lobster. The sunlight was too bright and the room was too dark. I lost my sight temporarily. I didn't see anything," Lin Yi said innocently with his hands up. "Lin Yi, the street lights are on already." Meng Yao wasn't that gullible. "Actually, I got nervous and got it backwards. The light in the room was too bright and it was too dark outside. I lost my sight temporarily. I didn't see anything," Lin Yi said awkwardly. I'll go back to my room first. I need to take a shower. Stop right there. You saw Shu's naked, how are you going to compensate me? Mengyao didn't want to let Lin Yi go just like that, she felt very wronged and uncomfortable. Yushu was the one who'd been seen naked, so why did she feel so bad? Let's talk after I take a shower. Lin Yi didn't want to piss Mengyao off right now. He'd wait for her to calm down and forget about it. Shield bro. Why were you in such a hurry to shower? Are you planning to hit a plane? Yushu said weakly all of a sudden. The tense atmosphere dissipated with that one sentence from Yushu. Mengyao was pissed off. I'm standing up for you. What kind of question was that? Shu, what the hell are you talking about? I just wanted to confirm if the books were true. Yushu stuck her tongue out, blaming herself for speaking too quickly. Didn't the books say that boys would have that kind of reaction after seeing something exciting? Shield bro must have some bad thoughts since he was in such a hurry to take a shower. Are you out of your mind? Mengyao was going crazy. No one's going to think you're a mute if you don't talk. I'll go back first then. Lin Yi was feeling rather awkward from Yushu's actions as well. He'd wanted to take a shower because he'd been out and about for 2 days, and Yushu had thought that he was going to do something dirty, and the target of his fantasies was her. Lin Yi, how dare you? You're not allowed to use Shu as a target for your dirty thoughts. Mengyao glared at Lin Yi. Oh, no, I'm really sweating. I just want to take a bath. If you don't believe me, you can watch. Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh at the end. Pervert. Mengyao humphed. Who wants to watch you? Lin Yi ran back to his room and let out a long breath. That was way too exciting. Why didn't time stop? He didn't know how long he'd have to wait for the next time. Of course, Lin Yi could just sneak up to the second floor at midnight and watch without anyone noticing General Wei Wu was just a decoration. But that was way too perverted and Lin Yi didn't want to do it. If he wanted to see, he'd do it openly. Even if Yushu didn't let him see, a few accidents like this was enough to satisfy Lin Yi. Shu, look at you, you're a girl, how are you going to get married if you let him see everything? Mengyao said helplessly after Lin Yi left. Shield bro's not an outsider, he even kissed me. Yushu blushed at the memory. Kissed you? Mengyao paused, realizing something she didn't know. When did he kiss you? She only knew that Lin Yi had pinched Yushu's boobs, but she didn't know that Lin Yi had kissed Yushu. What other secrets were these two hiding from her? Yushu realized that she'd let the cat out of the bag, but it was too late for regrets. It's not that. Actually, when I fell into the water, Shield bro was afraid that I'd choke, so he kissed me on the mouth. Why didn't you say that earlier? Mengyao was pissed. Shu, you're a girl, what are you going to do if he kisses you and looks at you like that? No, we have to get him to take responsibility. It's not that serious, is it? Yushu jumped at Mengyao's words. Lin Yi had taken advantage of her so many times without her noticing? How is it not? No, I have to talk to my dad, we can't let him stay here anymore, it's too dangerous. Mengyao didn't mean what she said. Her heart was in a mess. Alright Yao Yao, it's not like we got the short end of the stick. Didn't we see Shield bro going to the washroom at school? Yushu said with a straight face. So we're even, he got the short end of the stick too. He's at a disadvantage too? Mengyao was speechless. She couldn't understand her best friend's thoughts with common sense. But Mengyao was a little puzzled. Yushu wasn't someone who would let herself get taken advantage of easily. If she told her brother Yutian about this, he'd come over and beat up Lin Yi. But could Yutian beat Lin Yi? In Mengyao's impression, Yutian was very strong, and other than Lingshan, everyone else was subdued by him. But according to Shu, Lingshan was completely dominated by Lin Yi, using her phone to take pictures of Yushu playing with sand and sending them back to Lin Yi. Was this something that Lingshan would do in the past? Why don't we peek at him while he's showering? Yushu made a tempting suggestion. Mengyao would be lying if she said she wasn't curious, but if she peeked at Lin Yi showering, wouldn't she become a pervert? And so, Mengyao wouldn't agree to Yushu's suggestion. Shu, you're getting more and more open-minded, this isn't a good sign. This is the sign of a girl losing her virginity. Is it that serious? Yushu was shocked as well, and her face started to blush. It was true that she wasn't repulsed by him at all. Other than the fact that her heart was beating really fast, she wasn't complaining at all after being hugged and kissed by him. Chapter 340. Chapter 340 Hang Yin's cousin. What does that have to do with me? Meng Yao humphed, not caring at all. Don't tell me you'll marry whoever I marry. Shu, you're getting more and more out of character. Nah, I think it's pretty normal. Yushu said as she rubbed her head. Come upstairs with me and put on some clothes. Don't be so open next time. Meng Yao said, not bothering to talk to Yushu anymore as she dragged her upstairs. After a hot shower, Lin Yi felt refreshed from head to toe. Every pore on his body had opened up. He laid down comfortably on his bed and turned on his phone. After he turned on his phone, he received a lot of text messages. The first one was from Wang Xinyan when she got on the plane, sending her phone number to Lin Yi. Lin Yi saved the number and looked at the messages. Some of them were from Kong Xiaobo, reminding him to come back this weekend for his second grandpa's birthday party. The last one was from Tang Yin. It was a short message. When are you going to school? Lin Yi quickly texted Tang Yun back. I'm done. I'll go to school tomorrow. Tang Yin jumped when she heard the notification. She didn't want to tell her mother about her phone, and she forgot to put her phone on silent. Whose phone is that? Old Tang, is that your phone? That's not my voice. Mrs. Tang was busy preparing dinner when she heard the notification of a text message on her phone. It's not mine, that's not my phone. Isn't that a Nokia's message? Mr. Tang was lying on the sofa in the living room as he looked at his phone. Old Zhang's Nokia next door sounds like this. Whose phone is that? That's weird. Did you hear that? Mrs. Tang asked. It's mine. Tang Yin took her phone out of her pocket. She couldn't lie even if she wanted to, and she wasn't good at lying anyway. Yours. Mrs. Tang looked at the phone in Tang Yun's hand curiously. Yin, when did you get a phone? I didn't buy it. Linny gave it to me. Tang Yin lowered her head, blushing like a child who had done something wrong. Linny bought you a phone? Mrs. Tang didn't scold Tang Yin but smiled instead. Let me see. It should be 1,000, right? Mom. Tang Yin wasn't happy. Not only did her mother not scold her, but her attitude made her think that she was snobbish. This child, don't be shy. Mrs. Tang glared at her daughter. What's wrong with buying you a phone? Your dad hasn't bought me a mobile phone yet. I even bought the counterfeit phone I'm using with my own money. Tang Juqing lowered his head. Every time this happened, he hated himself for being useless. He was injured and lying on the bed like a cripple. Not only could he not go out to earn money, but he also had to burden Tang Yun and her mother with medical fees. Sometimes Tang Juqing wanted to die, but when he thought of his wife and daughter, he couldn't do that. Although his wife often scolded him for being useless, she still loved him from the bottom of her heart. Tang Juqing could feel this. It could be seen from the way his wife left early and returned late at night to take care of the family. Mom, Dad's actually really nice to you. Compared to the surreal feeling of being with Lin Yi, Tang Yun felt that her parents being together was the true happiness. I know he treats me well. Otherwise, I would have left him a long time ago. Mrs. Tang had a sharp tongue but a soft heart. She snorted and said, but Yin Air, don't be like me. I've fallen in love with your father for the rest of my life, and I've accepted my fate. You can't suffer like this. Tang Yun knew that her mother wanted to talk about her and Lin Yi, but was Lin Yi and her suitable? Tang Yun had a feeling that her life wasn't real. Maybe one day Lin Yi wouldn't like her anymore. Dang dang dang. Tang Yun and her family were talking when a knocking sound came from the courtyard. Mrs. Tang put the bowl and chopsticks on the table and walked out of the house to the yard. Who is it? Auntie, it's me and Wei. A girl's voice came from outside the door. Is it Dan? Why are you here so late? Mrs. Tang recognized the girl's voice. It was Wei's childhood friend, Dan. She opened the door as she spoke. Dan was anxiously pulling a stubborn boy. She saw Mrs. Tang as if she had seen her savior. Auntie, hurry and talk to Wei, he wants to sell his kidney. What? Mrs. Tang jumped at Dan's words. What's going on? Wei, you want to sell your kidney? And don't worry about it. Xiao Dan dragged me here and asked you to persuade me, but it's useless. I'll have to sell my kidney anyway. Xiao Wei said resolutely with a resolute expression on his face. Tang Yun heard her cousin's voice from inside the house. She was shocked when she heard that he was going to sell his kidney. She quickly ran out of the house. Wei, what did you say? Why do you want to sell your kidney? What nonsense are you talking about? Sis, it's none of your business. You can't do anything about it. I have to sell my kidney or Dan will be in danger. Wei said. Dan, take Wei inside first. Tell Auntie what's going on. Why are you selling your kidney for no reason? Mrs. Tang saw that her nephew didn't look like he was joking and panicked. Selling a kidney wasn't a joke. How could he sell it just like that? Dan pulled Wei into the house and was on the verge of tears. Tang Yin, sis, hurry and talk to Wei. He won't listen no matter what I say. He wants to sell his kidney. Wei, tell Auntie, why do you want to sell your kidney? Tang Yin didn't know what to do. She thought it was a joke before, but Wei didn't look like he was joking at all. Sis, even if I tell you, it's useless. I need money now, but your family's situation isn't much better than mine. If I don't sell my kidney, how am I going to raise money? Lil Wei shook his head. What can't we solve? We can find a way to borrow money. We don't have to sell our kidney. Mrs. Tang walked over and persuaded, Wei, how much money do you need? 150,000. Where can I borrow money from? My period is sick and we haven't collected enough money yet. If I could borrow money, I would have done it already. Wei sighed, Auntie, sis, I know you guys are doing this for my own good, but I have no other choice. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.